Information shared on the following program is for general information purposes only. It does not constitute legal, tax, investment, or other advice, nor is it intended to recommend any particular investments, products, or financial instruments. Always seek advice from your financial advisor, attorney, or accountant with regard to investment, legal, or tax questions.
So many people ask me, is it possible to train your brain to help you make more money? And the answer is yes.
Never thought of that.
Welcome to the only show in the country dedicated to helping savers worry less about money. The WorryFree Retirement, with offices in Louisville, Bowling Green, and Lexington. Your host, nationally recognized retirement specialist, 5-time author, and fiduciary, Tony Walker.
Ever ask yourself this question? How much money would it take for me to be happy and truly stop worrying about money? Would that magic number be $100,000? $500,000? $1 million? Or what about $100 million? Ever wonder why people spend their hard-earned money on lottery tickets? Well, the answer is quite obvious, isn't it? Because they think that having more money will make life easier. Now, the real question is this: will having more money help you worry less about it? Welcome to the Worry-Free Retirement, folks, and I am that little man in the sweater vest, retirement planning specialist and fiduciary, Tony Walker. And today we continue our deep dive into this concept we refer to as the pyramid of misdirection and thinking that we need more and more money. Kind of like from the financial world, that guy that's peddling this new theory on training our brains to make more money. By the way, I love how he pauses just a minute before he says yes. It's like, do I really believe this? Yes, of course I do. The point of today's show, folks, is to remind us how many people are out there trying to tap into our money. Why? So they can make more money on our money and, of course, feed on our desire to make more ourselves. Now, let's be honest. Before we get into the meat of today's show, I'm going to be really frank with you. I'm a retirement planning specialist. I, too, must depend on other people's money in order to stay in business. Let's face it, I got a home, a wife, kids, grandkids, 10 full-time employees, and yes, a black Russian terrier named Stella, who are all depending on me to work hard and work smart in my daily efforts to convince savers that we at Tony Walker Financial are well equipped to help them worry less about money. That's my daily calling. And I know if I'm successful in this venture, my hope is that many of these savers, maybe that's you right now watching this TV show, will turn over your money to us because we believe we can help you better than most people because this is what we specialize in. That's a fact, and I don't run from it. However, as we're going to teach you today, there is a big difference in the motive we bring to the table of working with other people's money versus some others out there who might offer the same hope but have totally a different agenda as to why they so desperately want you to turn your money over to them. You see, in the Worry-Free Retirement, it's not just a retirement planning process for savers to use and enjoy and protect their money. It is also a philosophy that's been born out of over 35 years of me personally working with thousands of savers, and in the end, it's all about the journey. Our life's work is the accumulation of things, but what I've learned over the years, it's really not about the money. So last week, we covered the first critical step in the financial world's notion of how they misdirect us from using and enjoying our money by instead convincing us that there's only one way to make it in retirement, and that's not to worry about money, but rather to risk it in something called the stock market, which when you think about it is kind of an oxymoron. We earn all this money, we pay all these taxes, and then we hand over the money to them to manage, and of course they charge fees on it. Yet, we're still the ones taking all the risk. You know, it's kind of like that bungee jumper we talked about last week. You know, she gets up in this cable car, apparently pays some of her hard-earned money in order to bungee jump out of this cable, hundreds of feet above a death-defying act here. And they strap on the straps to her ankles and they all talk her into jump. Now, the person that made money on this jump is all safe. They're in the cab. She's the one taking all the risk. Well, we're kind of told this by Wall Street, that since we might run out of money one day, that's the assumption, and they play on our fears that we could absolutely run out of money. So based on this assumption promoted by them, that we're going to need more and more money so that we won't run out of money. Well, it's risky though. So they say, well, hey, over the long term, the market's always gone up. Why do they do this? Because they know we're going to need more and more money? Not actually. You probably won't need more and more. That's the big myth. So where does all this stuff come from? Where does this message of save, save, save come from? Well, it comes from our second tier that we're talking about in our pyramid of misdirection, and that's this false notion that we need more money. Now, why did I create this one concept? Let me show you. It's called the 3 halves of life. Now, in the 3 halves of life, the concept here is to communicate to savers that there's basically 3 halves that we all go through. And during this period of time, there's the first half, halftime, and second half. What we need to do is watch our money play out. But what I've realized as one gets older, actually they start spending less money, not more of it. But because we're all human, we know that we're going to feel like we need more money, and thus we chase returns. We take more risk. We have no clue about taxes. And in the end, we really don't need as much money as we thought we did. So when I come back, I'm going to share with you how this actually works. What does a retirement specialist do versus somebody who is a wealth manager or a money manager? And how can you as a saver put a realistic price tag on how much you need and what is realistic for you and how much money you really need in retirement? I'm Tony Walker. You're watching the Worry-Free Retirement. I'll be right back. Are you retired or retiring soon? With the stock market at an all-time high, do you really think it's wise to risk your 401k plan? Well, I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, inviting you to my next free workshop, Safeguarding Your 401k from the Next Stock Market Crash, Tuesday, August 13th at 6 p.m. in Georgetown, Kentucky. Learn the secret to a worry-free retirement by attending. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
I own 5 homes. I don't owe 1 penny on one of those homes. You know how secure that makes me feel?
Speaking of 5 homes, Aaron, Megan, what would you do if you won the lottery?
Well, Tony, if I won the lottery, I'd invest all my money in the Worry-Free Retirement split IRA concept. Then I would have mailbox money for life.
I'd buy a tank.
Can I change my answer?
Okay, well, that was interesting. Several years ago, my wife and I were invited to a conference down in Key Largo, Florida, to a resort called the Ocean Reef Resort. Now, I've never heard of the Ocean Reef Resort prior to this experience, so I had no idea what to expect. You know, the big buzzword today is wealth planning, or I'm a wealth manager, folks. Most of us aren't wealthy compared to the true wealthy that I ran into down in the grounds of the Ocean Reef Resort. It was complete with 2 golf courses, and dig this, its own private runway. Now, I realized what wealth really is when I saw how these people lived. And in fact, the joke among the workers at the Ocean Reef Resort is that the people that lived there or had 2nd, 3rd, or 5th homes there on this resort, this was the place where the billionaires went to go get away from the millionaires. Oh, by the way, lots of boats back there at the Ocean Reef. Talking about boats, our own Gina Tutwiler is the proud owner of a 47-foot cruiser located on a lake here in Kentucky. Beautiful boat. But Gina, I hate to tell you, if you took that boat down to the Ocean Reef Resort and docked it around these boats, it would look like a dinghy. You see, folks, money and wealth, it's all relative. And with that said, the 2 most difficult tasks in my practice are as follows. Number 1, convincing savers that you don't need multiple homes and millions of dollars to be worry-free in retirement. It's just not true. And then secondly, convincing these savers to spend and enjoy their money, listen, before it's too late. You know, it's interesting to me that many savers work hard all of their lives to save money for retirement, but very few of them have a written game plan on how they're going to use and enjoy this money once they retire. I think it's because the financial world and all the folks after their money have incorrectly convinced them that they don't have enough money. And since you haven't met with a trained, experienced retirement specialist, such as ourselves, it's hard to figure out exactly what is reasonable or what should you expect. So what do? You turn on the radio, TV, you Google the internet, and then you find out that a lot of these people seem to be more concerned about your money than they do making money for you. Is this making sense? Case in point, let's take a look at one of the most popular savings tool ever created, known as the 401k plan. Now, the 401k plan was created in 1978 in order to get employers off the hook from having to provide guaranteed pension plans. The 401k was basically ushered in by Wall Street with the promise of more money for Joe Lunchbox, people like my granddad. More money, I guess, so that Joe Lunchbox actually would have less worries. That was the pitch. Well, that was good for Wall Street, maybe not so good for Joe Lunchbox. That's because the 401k is a wonderful savings tool. I would not argue that. The problem is it's a lousy planning tool, especially when Joe Lunchbox retires. Why is this? Well, unlike the simplicity of the guaranteed pension that my granddad enjoyed, pension income that lasted for the rest of his life, something he called mailbox money, today's savers are forced to deal with taxes, risks, fees, inflation, and they now truly have a fear of running out of money because they are in the stock market. So what do most savers do with their 401k plans when they retire? Most of them don't do anything with it. They just kind of wait to take income until they reach this magical governmental age, I don't know who came up with this, of age 70 and a half. Now think about this. It's called the required minimum distribution age. How in the world did anybody ever sell people on this? Basically what it's saying is the government now, when you turn age 70 and a half, here's the thinking, they're going to give you permission to take a minimum amount of your money that you've worked so hard to get. And in the meantime, the Wall Street, the banks, the insurance companies, they've all been making money on this money while it's been sitting there locked up in these 401k plans. There is nothing magical, folks, about the age 70 and a half. In fact, by the time most of my clients, if they do wait to draw money till 70 and a half, I always warn them it might be too late to enjoy it. Time has passed them by. So they don't feel like they're hopping on a plane flying to Europe, okay? That's not going to happen anymore. Sometimes their health has worsened, so they don't feel like traveling or doing as much as they could do when they were younger. They may even by this time lost a spouse. And if they don't use their 401k during their lifetime, the tax tumor, as I like to call it, all these complicated rules that are associated with it, all this risk associated with it, it doesn't go away. All that stuff just gets passed on to the kids. In fact, if you don't know how to properly use that 401k or the IRA, you might end up just like the daughter of this poor soul who died with one.
My father wanted his IRA to go to his children. And what happened is, because he didn't fill out the beneficiary form correctly, it went to his wife of 2 months.
Folks, I've seen this happen. So how do you avoid the pyramid of misdirection, this second phase we call more money? And it's not just a failure to plan around complicated rules and taxes. You also have to worry about the fees on your money and understand exactly what the financial world is charging on your money. When I come back, I'm going to share something with you most of you have probably never seen, and it's the effect of fees and why many people tell you to keep saving more and more money with them. Good for them? Maybe not so good for you. Stay tuned. I'll be right back.
Are you retired or retiring soon? Can you afford for your money to take a hit with the stock market being so volatile these days? Nobody can time the market, but having a retirement game plan with Tony Walker Financial gives you peace of mind and sleep insurance. Learn how to prevent losses in your retirement accounts and plan your retirement around an income you can never outlive. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com today to schedule a personal meeting with Tony to secure your hard-earned money. That's TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
And now it's time for Tony in the Trenches.
Welcome back to the Worry-Free Retirement Hour. Tony in the trenches, this is interesting. So let me set the stage. A gentleman who I know who recently retired had been meeting with us regularly about what to do with his 401k plan. Of course, in Tony Walker financial fashion, we were trying to give him all the information he needed to make a sound judgment of what he might want to do. Had several meetings with him, giving him loads of information, no cost, no obligation, no pressure. Well, in the meantime, which is his prerogative, he went to a dinner seminar, and the gentleman was from out of town, and apparently the story goes something like this. He shared this with Heather, by the way, after this happened. So the gentleman wanted to meet with him. He agreed to, and he said, where are we going to meet? And he said, well, I'll just come to your home since I don't have an office. Well, he agreed to that. The advisor that had the dinner seminar comes to his home and immediately starts talking about annuities and how he should invest all of his 401k into an annuity, paying a 10% bonus and all the good things about it. And the guy said, well, wait a minute. I've been looking at annuities. What about surrender charges? What about this? He was asking some very intelligent questions because we had kind of prepped him to understand annuities. Here's the funny part. The gentleman says, well, in order to tell you that, I'm going to have you sign this. Apparently, my prospective client told Heather, he goes, well, I'm not signing anything, he told this young man. He said, I'm not signing anything. And the guy said, well, if you're not going to sign this, at least let me get a picture of your driver's license. Kind of reminds me, once years ago, a guy tried to sell me on this gutter guard stuff and came in my home, and after I found out it was $8,000, I couldn't get rid of the fella. So, folks, you should be under no compulsion, no pressure to buy anything. By the way, if you've been to a dinner seminar and people are talking about annuities, before you jump into an annuity, why don't you at least talk to us? We've written more annuities than about anybody in the country. I've been using these products since 9/11. I know these products very well. If you want to learn more about annuities, go to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Be sure to download the free Annuity Decision Guide for Savers. It'll hopefully save you a lot of time and potentially a lot of grief. Okay, let's get into what we want to talk about. We're talking about fees, and the theme of our show is everybody telling you that you need more money in retirement. So what you need to do is give it to us, right? And we'll invest it. Let's say we're a money manager, and we're going to use this example here of a money manager charging 1.5%. Now, I recently saw an ad on TV, and the fellow said something like this: we do better when you do better, or we make more money when you make more money. Well, what they don't tell you is they do better even when you do worse, because we charge fees on our Schwab platform. We charge 0.6%. What we're going to compare it to is the typical money manager who charges 1.5%. Folks, we're not money managers, we're retirement specialists. Our job is to keep your cost low. If we keep your costs low, it's a fact you'll have more money in your pocket. But let's look at this. So back prior to 2008, let's say someone had $500,000. It grew to 522, 1.5% of that. So the money manager makes almost $8,000. You don't pay much attention to that. That's a lot of money. But you say, yeah, but my account went up. Well, what happened in 2008? We saw the market fall out down to 323. Look at this. The money manager, assuming 1.5%, still makes $5,000. Pretty good day's work. And what's funny is if you total, not funny, but if you total this up to here, let's stop at 2013 at 526. Somebody might say, whew, finally, after all those years, I put in 500, I'm up to 526, I've made $26,000. The money manager, in the meantime, with absolutely no risk. Let's take a look at that bungee dropper again. Remember, they're sitting there in the cab all safe and warm. You're taking the leap. No risk, has made over $40,000. And who brought this money to the dance? You did. They had no risk in this. So now we fast forward, and granted the accounts have gone up. That's great. You've made some money. But the point is they make money whether you do or not. Now, what's scary about this, many of you who are savers remain in this position. You're getting ready to retire. You retire. You don't realize how much fees are being charged. So the question is this: what if we could take a whole lot less risk, minimize your cost, and still accomplish your goals and objectives? Well, let's look at that right now. So in this example, we're assuming the worry-free retirement. Our first objective is safety. The other guy's objective is risk. They're comfortable with risk. Most savers are not. So let's just imagine between now and the time you die, all we earn you, hopefully we can get you more than this. I'm just being ridiculous about this assumption. All we make you is 2%. And let's say the other guys are saying they can make you 10. Let's say they say in the past that's what they've made everybody. No guarantees, right? But that's what they're saying. Fine. What are we going to focus on? Our focus for savers, first and foremost, is protection. We don't want to lose anything, folks. Why would you want to start losing money when you're retired or nearing retirement? This makes no sense. Their focus, okay, over at Wall Street is growth. In the Worry-Free Retirement, the philosophy is we're not going to grow your money. That is not the objective. We're retired now. We want to use and enjoy it, but we have to protect it. So we want to protect it at little or no cost. Here's the key, because I've learned through studying economics and opportunity cost, the more we can reduce your costs, the more is in your pocket, the less you'll worry about money. What does Wall Street do? They focus on growth, listen, at all cost. They don't care about cost. It's not a knock against them, but that's not their job. A money manager's job is to try to grow your money. A retirement specialist's job is to protect it. So if you're sitting there saying, well, Tony, yeah, I'm kind of nervous right now. I keep calling my broker and they say, hang in there, don't worry about it. If it goes down, look long term. Folks, that's not a retirement strategy at all. That's a game plan for worry. Why don't you do this? Why don't we just meet in person and talk about our philosophy? Let us compare what you're doing now with the Worry-Free Retirement. I've met with thousands of people over the years, and I would like that opportunity to meet in person with you or just to discuss your situation by phone. It's easy to do. All you do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. We will arrange a time to meet. We can either meet in our Bowling Green, Louisville, or our new offices in Lexington, Kentucky. Just give us a call or go online to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Well, what does the Bible have to say about all of this chasing after money? It has something to do with actually barns. Stay tuned. I got to get me a cup of coffee. We'll be talking about the Bible. I'll be right back. Are you retired or retiring soon? With the stock market at an all-time high, do you really think it's wise to risk your 401k plan? Well, I'm retirement specialist Tony Walker, inviting you to my next free workshop, Safeguarding Your 401k from the Next Stock Market Crash, Tuesday, August 13th at 6 p.m. in Georgetown, Kentucky. Learn the secret to a worry-free retirement by attending. Log on now to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
Tired of the financial world chasing after your money? Dinner seminar invitations? Annoying pop-up ads on your computer from out-of-state advisors? It all adds up to confusion. There is a better way. Meet in person with nationally recognized retirement specialist Tony Walker. Tony's personal one-on-one approach has helped thousands of savers worry less about money, and best of all, Tony's right in our own backyard. Don't leave your retirement to chance. Make the short drive to meet in person with Tony now. To get started, simply log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com.
I am not a destroyer of companies. I am a liberator of them. The point is, ladies and gentlemen, that greed, for lack of a better word, is good. Greed is right. Greed works.
A powerful scene in the 1987 film directed by Oliver Stone called Wall Street, where actor Michael Douglas plays Bud Fox, talking about the qualities of greed. And whether we want to admit it, folks, we are all wired for this desire for more and more money. It's called greed. God knows this. He understands our humanness and our desire to not feel left out, maybe to follow the herd, especially following the herd if we think we can make more money on our money, right? Yet the Bible encourages us to think differently about money and this desire for accumulating more and more of it. You know, Jesus says, beware and be on your guard against every form of greed, for not even when one has an abundance does his life consist of his possessions. So what does he mean by this? Well, in Luke 12:15 through 20, Jesus explains by sharing the parable of a rich man who, instead of using and enjoying the money, he decides to store up more food by building bigger barns. He wants bigger barns because he thinks he'll need all this food in the future. Kind of like you storing up more and more for retirement, right? It sounds logical. In his mind and in ours, we need bigger barns now because we don't know how much stuff we'll need in the future. But rather than measuring his needed portion, greed sets in and takes over his better judgment. In fact, the ending of this story does not turn out well for this rich man, because rather than living a long life to enjoy all the stuff he's stored up in all these barns, we kind of slip down to verse 20 and it concludes this way. Jesus says, God says to him, "You fool, this very night your soul is required of you, and now who will own what you have prepared?" This is a great question, and assuming you're a follower of Christ, a question you should be able to answer actually with great confidence. Now, in my own walk, I've realized that our barns only need to be so big. How big? Well, today I'm not preaching to how big your barn should be or how much you should have in your 401k to be worry-free. In fact, as the late great Charles Spurgeon once said, I love this, "I'm not here to convert man to my opinions. I'm just here to share my observations about them." You see, only you can decide what's best for you. Only you can look at what you have and decide enough is enough. But here's what I've found. When you begin to trust God with the provisions you have and plan accordingly, you begin to worry less about the size of your barn, the size of your 401k, and you begin to think more about how can I use and enjoy this stuff while I can. You know, remember, all of these mixed messages you keep hearing from the financial world mainly concern them. They're not concerned about you. So regardless of whether you have a few bucks in your pocket or a few $1 million sitting around, keep this in mind. This is what I've learned. It's not about the money. Eventually, you and I must ask ourselves, how much is enough? Well, if you're asking yourself that question right now, how much is enough, and you don't know, well, let's talk. You know, for more than 35 years, I've committed my life's work to helping savers answer that very question, and I'm pretty good at it. You know, we have over 2,000 clients who are either retired or nearing retirement. Retirement planning, that's what we do. We do it very well. So if you're retired, thinking of retiring soon, maybe you've got a 401k, an old annuity, maybe a brokerage account that you don't know what they're charging you in the way of fees, why don't we sit down to talk, or even just talk by phone? The best part of all, there is no cost or obligation to meet with me in person. All you got to do is log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com. Once there, you'll be contacting us. You can click on the Let's Get Started, or if you have a question, just type that into the query there. We'll be happy to respond immediately. If we do meet, we can either meet in my Bowling Green, Louisville, or brand new offices in Lexington, Kentucky. So you've got nothing to lose, but possibly a lot to gain. So do it now. Log on to TonyWalkerFinancial.com or call the toll-free number on your screen. Well, next week, we're going to get a deeper dive into this concept of more money, and more specifically, what does a successful retirement look like? Good stuff coming up next week on the Worry-Free Retirement, but you remember, between now and then, if all else fails, you be worry-free. Make it a good one.
If you got it, you don't need it. If you need it, you don't got it. You don't get it, shame on you. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Them that have it get more of it. The less they need it, the more they love it. And it sticks to them like glue. Funny, funny, funny what money can do. Ask the rich man, he'll confess, money can't buy happiness.